I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. Such a pleasure to be able to speak to you today. Huge congrats on the film. I just love how fresh and original it feels. The fact that it's dealing with all these really big issues around identity, sexuality, culture, but it does it, you know, with such kind of colour and humour, and which really balances out maybe some of the more tragic moments. When you first read that script, what really excited you about the project?
You read it before me.
I suppose I did, yeah. I suppose everything you just said, to be honest with you. Yeah, I mean, I did, yeah. I was, you know, like you say, I think often films like this that can deal with serious issues sometimes get either like overly didactic, you know, trying to teach the audience everything, or get quite bogged down in the heaviness of the material, whereas this felt like it had that, you know, I think art should be beautiful, and I think it should ultimately be uplifting most of the time, for me, personally, you know. That's why it exists, if you ask me, you know. But so this really has that, you know. It deals with those serious issues, but it has such an uplifting and hopeful and optimistic outlook as well.
You've put it so well. Should I even add anything? But it doesn't leave you as like a, you know, like a Debbie Downer. It leaves you being like, yeah, like, even though shit's happening, like, let's get up and get back on the horse and, like, you know, tackle life, because at the end of the day, life is lifing all the time, and that we just basically see these people trying to live life. And I think that's what's so connective about it, is that, like, everyone is just trying to just like get through life at, you know, all the time, trying to figure life out.
Yeah, and we've all got like barriers and things that we're facing and things we're overcoming and dealing with. You know, I think everyone can relate to that. Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I felt that shit, but then yes, like 10 minutes later, I did feel amazing. You know?
Why does it sound sexual to me? I don't know.
It's not.
Is that my mind?
No.
Yeah.
That's just because
just me.
you look at me.
Okay. Yeah. I just can't resist, honey. I'm sorry.
And it is very much, you know, two worlds colliding. And on paper, you know, these two characters are so opposite. But what I love about it is as the film goes on, it's like constantly kind of testing and subverting, you know, perhaps the stereotypical assumptions we might have about these two people. So how did you find those characters? I guess starting with you, Ben. How did you find Luke? I mean, even his physicality, the way he looks, you know, he's kind of this working class guy, but really goes on this emotional journey through the film. So how did you approach that?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it was a study of the sort of nuance behind that sort of alpha male sort of mentality and the sort of culture that he would have grown up in. You know, you talk about him physically as well. Like he you know, semi-physically imposing, I suppose. The way he carries himself as well. You know, where does that come from? Where does that come from? Is that because that's who he is? Is that because of what he's expected to be? Is that because he feels he needs to be that way? You know, and he's really going through an identity crisis in the film, really. You know, so it's which I feel like most people have been through. I think I've been through one. Have you been through one?
Yeah.
You know, balancing that conflict and trying to imagine what it'd be like to be in that space of everything you've ever been told that you're supposed to be, either like through osmosis or actually in your face been told, to then have like an emotional experience, something which you feel like you can't resist, which goes entirely against all of that, and how to deal with that conflict of interest within your life. Yeah.
And for you, Jason, you know, finding Aisha Sheikh, you know, living this completely sort of double life. I mean, I know you've got a background in music, which you obviously bring, and in working on that scene, you know, which you bring to this role. So how much of yourself will you be able to put into that, and or what else did you have to kind of reach to try and find your character?
When's the next song out? Plug.
My EP is coming out in 1 month. No.
Just tell on Spotify.
I said this to Sally and James really early on, and when they gave me the role, it was like I said this. It was like I was preparing for this role my whole life, all this kind of challenge, and I always like to really elevate and like grow and develop, because I have this thirst for knowledge, and it felt like I was experiencing a lot of different cultures and learning so much that I wanted to bring it into something, and this just happened to be the right project. I've been a fan of Drag Race and drag for so long, and I started to really get involved in the South Asian culture and like those alternative worlds and like club scenes, that it was just kind of the right time, right place, the right project that actually can just bring all these different pieces and references that I knew together into these two different characters. I'm not necessarily both of these characters, but I had experiences in my own life that I knew that I could bring to this. You know, coming out to your parents, being from a working class family in the north, moving to London and, like, you know, exploring your creative self. It felt that I was really taking this to the next level and representing this character, but like for a whole community of people, and uplifting these people and letting them shine and have their like sparkle and the moment that they deserve, because the underground world is where they do all of this like experimentation and fusion of cultures, and I've had that in my own music and in the way that I express, like in fashion or in the work that I get involved in. So to put it all in this project just meant everything.
I mean, I'm seeing that in the fashion right now, actually, because this has got like a Western sort of vibe,
isn't it?
But then with like a added on
and double denim with the cowboy boots, like, you know.
That's spot on. Yeah. And in terms of, you know, your character's relationship, I mean, there's just so many layers. It's so nuanced. And the fact that there's constant kind of push-pull between them. I mean, they're both sort of growing and learning together. And the fact that there's sort of this fear and trepidation, but then there's also lots of sort of comic moments, there's playfulness, sexiness. How did you kind of work on that together? And I guess, what do you think the takeaway is? I think it is about wanting to know yourself, but also to be seen and to be accepted for who you really are.
I think for us to work on that, it was very like natural. Like our banter is very natural, and we kind of just have a really good synergy. So when we did some like loose improvs with Sally and James, it kind of just happened and was just there and organic, because I think we had embodied our characters and we knew who these people were, and we just let go of everything and we're just like there with each other and kind of like played around, you know, and played, and kind of like having that push-pull, that yearning, or like suppressing that like instinct, and just being vulnerable is probably like the most amazing thing, that I feel so comfortable around you and so vulnerable, like, and can be like fully myself. There's not any pressure.
I think like we were so well prepared, because it was like the most in-depth rehearsal process I've ever had. You know, we were talking to Sally and James, the directors, for, you know, hours on Zoom, sometimes over their house. They'd be like, yeah, you can stay if you want, it's 3 a.m. They had to get up in like 4 hours to look after their kid. But, you know, so we did page turn after page turn, just like mining that script and knowing that story so well, that gave us that freedom to be able to just sort of play and explore, because we knew our characters and we knew the story, we knew the world so well. And like Jason said, you know, like we just felt very you seemed to be very trusting of me from the get-go, and I was like, this guy trusts me, really. And like, maybe too much. Am I this trustworthy?
But I am right, though.
But you are right. You knew me better than I know myself.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We really felt, and Sally and James are responsible for that as well. They created that safe space on set to feel like we could play and explore and try things, and nothing is wrong, you know. And yeah, to kind of.
We approached everything with a lot of love, not just us two, Sally and James. And I think also I would love to shout out like all the crew that worked on it, because they were all there for the project, and for the passion and for the love. And we were all kind of just like, we all felt the same way, which I think helped.
Well, I'm out of time, unfortunately, but thank you so much for sharing all that with me. And I really can't wait for when I see unicorns. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Congrats. Thank you. I really love the film.